Go ahead, Caesar.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Thursday, October 27th, 2022. Commissioners Court is meeting in special open session. Would you please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Judge, do you have any opening comments for us?
Yeah, just want to thank all of you for being here. You know, at the county, we say every day is Veterans Day. Okay, so we're very, very proud to have all of you here, all the different groups, and I think we're going to have some very interesting presentations. You know, we're very supportive, obviously, the commissioners, myself, we're very supportive of veterans, and so we want to thank you. I do want to make an announcement. You know, I just heard right now that Ruben Garza, Jr., would you want to stand up, please? And he is the United American Veteran Organization president-elect last night, and he will take office on January 1st, right? So just a round of applause for... I just spoke to him, a lot of passion about let's get everybody united, going in the same direction, so welcome aboard. Thank you. And like I said, just thank you for being here on behalf of the commissioners and myself. You know, we have some great initiatives, and we'll talk about especially one coming up November 1st, and we'll be able to talk a little bit about that. But we'll start with the presentations, and I'll have Alexa, would you mind coming up and starting things off for us?
This morning, we're joined by ASL interpreters Audrey Lopez and James Garcia.
Hey, James, Audrey. Alexis, welcome.
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. Alexis McCrae from the Veterans Advisory
Do you
Board.
need to read the...
Yes,
yes, she's going to read... Cesar's going to read the...
Just going to quickly do item number 3 as well. Item number 3 is public comment. We do not have anybody signed up for general public comment, so we'll take no action on this item. Item number 4 from the regular agenda, receive a presentation from David Garcia and the County Veterans Advisory Board regarding the Repatriate Our Patriots initiative. And we do have one public comment online for this item when we're ready for it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Alexis.
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. So I wanted to bring the humanitarian efforts and information about veterans and veterans that have been deported and ways that these organizations help our veterans. The Veterans Advisory Board heard these presentations a little earlier this year, and we felt that it was necessary, and us with the goal having being the Veterans Capital of the United States, and that we recognize that there is a group of veterans that we seem to have forgotten. It's been a little out of sight, out of mind for us. Because unfortunately, once these veterans are deported, they lose contact, you know, with the veteran organizations and sometimes even with their families. I personally was fortunate to go to Juarez for the first time on the 4th of July and spend some time with our veterans that reside there and hear about some of their challenges and their struggles and their difficulties, you know, with regaining access back to our country, receiving VA healthcare benefits as well. And even once they're here, they fall into our homeless population. They have difficulty getting identification. And the organizations that are here, they are a tremendous help, but we recognize that, you know, there's still more that we could be doing, and there is a huge gap in how we can help these veterans. So fortunately, Mr. Garcia and some of his team, he'll speak to their efforts that they've made with the humanitarian cause, but after him will be Repatriate Our Patriots, and they're a nonprofit organization that actually goes to different countries throughout the world and actually tries to assist veterans in attaining paperwork and things like that, you know, just to kind of start the process here. So I did want to just give a brief introduction and say that, you know, in regards to our strategic plan for 2023 to 2024, we want to ensure that we're including taking care of our veterans that are no longer, well, they're not U.S. citizens, however, they did serve in our military, and we do still want to take care of them. So we'll start off with Mr. Garcia.
Thank you. Thank you, Alexis. Mr. Garcia?
Good morning, Commissioners, Judge.
Welcome.
First of all, I want to say thank you to my veteran brothers and sisters that are here today. With all my heart, I thank you. It is very important for us to show strength and unity. Here it is. There's more. But the thing is, on this issue alone, working with Repatriate Our Patriots, with Carlos, hey, I want to thank you, Carlos, because this is your platform with GI Forum, and I am a strong advocate of this Deported Veteran Initiative. And the humanitarian mission is also with the Repatriate Our Patriots. I see that we have one veteran here that has been repatriated. Can you please stand so we can welcome him home?
Excellent. Welcome home.
Now let's get to the meat of the thing. First thing, I want to thank God for him giving us the opportunity to come here today to present this very important initiative. And also to my brothers and sisters in the audience and agencies. I want to start off first that when I first took on this mission as Veteran of the Year, there was a lot of things that were going through my mind. Okay, what should I do to try to better our community or get more involved? And, excuse me, it's not about me. Let's get that out of the way. This is about us unifying and building strength with each other within our veteran community to at least get a better quality of life. And I know some of you already know that. You guys has done a tremendous job. And some of the items that have been come for you for the parades, for all other sorts, for the symposiums and everything else. That's fine and dandy, and we want to thank you. The veteran community wants to thank you for your initiative in doing that, Judge and Commissioners. Okay, with your tremendous VAB, with Sergeant Major Dreyer, Alexis, David Thaxton, Ben Williams, and the other young lady. You've chosen some leaders that at least take the opportunity to listen to our concerns within the veteran community. And this was one of them. More to come, believe me. But right now, I'm going to focus on this. I've spoken to Carl Dreyer. And the thing is, basically, he showed me the strategic plan and the goals that the commission has, or what you guys want to present. In your packet there, on your 9 strategic goals, I think goal number 6, which is 6.7, being recognized as veteran capital of the United States. I will speak on that, how this initiative is going to filter into this, okay? Now, Senator Blanco, he introduced a bill. It's SB 886. I'm going to speak about that in a little bit. But first thing I want to do, since you got my picture up there already, let's get rid of that mug. Okay? Go to the next slide. I am going to read first my personal vision on this matter. Greetings to all. As El Paso County Veteran of the Year, representing 54,000 plus veterans, family members, and widows, with my veteran community partners, advocates for our deported veterans in Ciudad Juarez, I'm sending a strong message throughout the county and the city of El Paso, Texas. For over 30 years, our deported veterans have been ignored and forgotten. Many have died in exile, waiting for repatriate to become U.S. citizens, but never had the chance to enjoy the freedoms with their families or friends. Our U.S. Embassy and consulate in Mexico cannot provide any assistance or offer them humanitarian aid regardless of their DD-214 discharge. This is a disgrace. These deported veterans have earned the dignity, the honor, and the respect by serving to defend this great nation. Deported veterans that are disabled from the wounds of war are entitled to VA benefits with no VA health care or mental care. They must pay out of pocket for doctor's visits and treatment for their service-connected disabilities. This is shameful. They survive with the little they have. They live in fear due to the violence in their community. Deported veterans wait for repatriating back to the country they love, the United States of America. Therefore, I am a strong advocate and supporter of this Deported Veteran Initiative and joined others in the veteran community to continue with the strong advocacy of in awareness, providing humanitarian assistance. We leave no one behind. Their voices will be heard, not ignored or not forgotten. This is my personal feelings about this initiative. Now, next slide. I have to thank Carlos Rivera. Already did that. And Senator Blanco. This initiative, this is the American GI Forum. They've been fighting for many years for the injustice for the men and women who has defended their country's freedom and served honorably to be deported after being released and continue to this day. That is shameful and unacceptable. And have taken the lead on this platform and continue to advocate strongly on this initiative, which is proposed to partner up with many other veteran groups, which I believe we have already, and there's more, community organizations to build a strength and unity within our veteran community to support our deported veterans in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. My brother, another organization that I have to commend is Repatriate Our Patriots organization, which is, I'm a volunteer also for it. Our strong advocates and supporters for the deported veterans throughout the United States and the world. Wherever they're at, they'll try to help. The ROP representatives here in El Paso and Ciudad Juarez, Chief Operation and Community Outreach Program, Diane Vega, and Community Outreach Action Team, Corne Ivan Ocon, have taken the lead to support this initiative with other veteran organizations and community partners, providing humanitarian assistance. Their presentation will explain their mission. I want to congratulate State Senator Cesar Blanco for a strong advocacy on the Deported Veteran Initiative by supporting the American GI Forum and Texas Veterans Commission by sponsoring Texas legislative SB 886, the Citizen Assistance for Veterans Act, which has been signed into law, states on request of the veteran. The Texas Veterans Commission shall evaluate the citizen status in order to educate and direct the veterans in becoming U.S. citizens. And number two, very important, to facilitate the veterans' naturalization process. Next slide. Next slide. There you go. Thank you, sir. Everybody asks, why is this a federal issue? Let me tell you something. The federal legislature have been involved. The Senate, the House of Representatives, Congress introduced legislation pertaining to S 3212 and H. 1182, which is Veterans Deported Prevention and Reform Act, and 4382 Repatriate Our Patriots Act, are waiting for other representatives to support and co-sponsor these bills to become law. Now, with all the support on legislation at the federal and state level on this initiative, will bring awareness to our county and city government for your support by amending the strategic plan for the future of these deported veterans we will not forget or ignore. Next page. I've met with the leaders of this community, and we discussed some of the things that probably we need to address so that our commissioner and our county government can understand what we're trying to do. And the folks on the right-hand side, these are the folks that I spoke to, the leaders. I call them leaders because they are the ones that has brought us here today. These leaders, especially our Veteran Advisory Board. And now I'm working with the city to see if they jump on board, because if not, Las Cruces is going to take their place. I'm just kidding. If they don't jump on board, so. But if you read this slide right here, now we're going to go to item 29 of your strategic plan. If you follow, it's in your folder there, sir. Put this wrong. Oh, here it is. Item 29 is a proposed by your county administration, which basically, to me, proposed means if they vote on it, yes or no. But bringing this to your attention on awareness, you know, like they propose to intend that they direct Texas Veterans Commission. Let's stop there. This is where this law comes into play. SB 886. The reason being is because under Citizen Assistance for Veterans, on request of a veteran, the Texas Veteran Commission shall evaluate the veteran's citizenship status in order to, of course, educate, direct, and facilitate their naturalization process. Basically, this proposal to be added into your strategic plan filters in with the law. There's still work to be done. It's just a basic, this is what we're going to do. Texas Veterans Commission is going to do this. Counseling, mental health, and everything else. All that's going to be included. And that's probably also what Texas Veterans Commission needs to lead on. Now, today, my recommendation, if you can get a vote to approve it, item 29, which filters into your goal of 6.7, recognizing El Paso County as the veteran capital of the U.S. These are historical moments that our leadership here in the government, you're going to establish that. It's never been done. So that's why we're here today. If we want to do something for our county and with our veteran community, all we are asking is to include this strategic plan, this portion of item 29 into your strategic plan. Vote it in. And the reason why it needs to be included, so our veteran brothers in Ciudad Juarez will not be forgotten. And this is why it's very important that the city jump on board so that them brothers over there in Juarez know that they're not forgotten, that we're ready for them when they cross over or become repatriated back, that they have the same benefits that we receive now. Immediately, there is such a problem, they don't have an ID card. And we're working on that. I think the NVOP has found a way where they can get an ID card, maybe temporarily, so that they can start getting their benefits. All we need from you, county government, is to include this into your strategic plan. And I hope and pray that historical moment for all of us. The last slide, I'm almost done. What can we do as a community to assist our deported veterans? The support of our community in the county and the city of El Paso is very important. We are El Paso strong, but let's put this in parentheses. We are veteran strong. Many veteran community partners and others with humble hearts have joined to include our Border Patrol agents in a humanitarian mission, which Repatriate Our Patriots is going to go more into that, by collecting donations, foods, and everything else, promoting a better quality of life for our deported veterans and their family they served honorably. Personally, with a humble heart, support this humanitarian mission as they speak about it today. This is a way our elected officials in the county and the city of El Paso can show their support and assist our deported veterans. Strength and unity and working together, we will prevail. And I want to thank you for this opportunity to give me, the time to come and speak on this very important issue. Thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia, it gives me the opportunity that, how did this, it's not this superficial Veterans Capital USA, sort of title, but it's something that after working, it's been about 3.5 years on working with organizations, starting with Carlos Rivera and every one of you that have participated, begin to see that we need to get recognized much more than any other community for that privilege of being the Veterans Capital of the USA. But we also made a commitment very early on that we would not be able to do or say that if we have gaps. And first, you go out and say, this is who we are, we're entitling it, we deserve it, we've done so much research, we can protect it. But you do not want someone to say, if in fact you are the Veterans Capital of the USA, look at this gap, or look at this other gap, and look at what's happening to our fellow veterans there in Juarez, and then be able to say that with a straight face. So the first part of it, of the celebration component at the Coliseum, November 1st at 6 o'clock, is claiming it, but then we have to defend it. And the way you defend it is by making sure, and we talked when we met at the Coliseum, and I talked to all the organizations, they were concerned that there were gaps. But if you look at from the time we did the survey, which was one of the first in the country, when we did that survey, we knew there was gaps. But I can tell you, one by one by one, I mean, we've been clearing them off, thanks to all of you. That we're addressing every opportunity that we have. Thank God we now have, a little bit better with the veterans, hospital, trying to get that taken care of. That was a big issue. And then obviously our great relationship with the military. I can tell you, I've met General Eisenhower. He'll be on November 1st, he'll be there, along with Senator Blanco, and he is completely feels extremely good, no doubt that that's what we should be entitling ourselves. I was at the AUSA, had an opportunity to be there 2 weeks ago and talk to a lot of people about, hey, what do you think? We never got a pushback. They all said the same, serving and being in Fort Bliss and the community and having 54,000 strong is amazing. I got to speak to Undersecretary, very proud that he's Gabe Camarena from Hanks High School here from El Paso, the Undersecretary of the Army. Very proud of that. I got to talk to him as well, and he too says there's no doubt. So we're on track, but this particular item is very, very important in that this is humanitarian. It's not just we can't get the services or we're not coordinating, we're not communicating. This would be like if you were in war and all of a sudden somebody was, your fellow troop were there and nobody was taking care of them and you'd walk away. As veterans, you would never do that. And that's what the message that Mr. Garcia is saying. We know they're there, we know they're struggling, and you can't walk away from it because veterans help veterans. One of the things that we're very proud of is that when we do Veterans Capital USA, we know two things are going to be very important, and that is veterans are very loyal. So veterans coming to our community or passing by are going to want to be here with us. The other one that we're very sure, according to the general, is that we're going to get different kinds of donations and a lot of, it's going to sort of make it legitimize around the country to help us be that Veterans Capital of the USA. So with that said, I just want to have Betsy. Betsy, could you bring us up to date? Because I know we had a little discussion about, what we're trying to accomplish at a legislative level. So if you don't mind commenting and enhancing this presentation.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning. So we recently have had discussions with Congresswoman Escobar's legislative liaison. She was here visiting from her DC office. When we met with her, we did make her aware that this continues to be an important initiative for our area. And in addition to the legislation that's been introduced in previous legislative sessions at the federal level, that we're looking for other considerations, including some type of immigration reform that would allow at least some kind of temporary or easier access visa. I know there is some humanitarian visas, but some other type of specific visa for deported veterans. We asked them for any kind of ideas or working for brainstorming on how we could allow access to services for our deported veterans. We also have spoke to, I believe, we have this, I'm sorry, we have this on our federal legislative agenda, which will be shared both with, of course, approved by the court and shared both with Congressman Gonzalez, who has a representative here today from his office, and Congresswoman Escobar's, as well as our other federal delegation in Texas. So those are some of the efforts we've continued to track and work on with this initiative.
Betsy and Betsy, would it be an opportunity to take the request, or we don't have action on this item? Can we take action, I guess is the question. No? Okay.
Good morning, Judge. Anna Schumacher, Assistant County Attorney. Because we're not posted for action this morning, we could only take the presentation, but we could come back at a later date when we've posted this properly.
Is it too late to, because I would like to combine that with the resolution that we're doing on Monday, on the Veterans Capital of the USA resolution. Is there an opportunity to bring it in at that time?
We could add an agenda item for Monday. We still have time. We could
excellent.
add it for Monday.
Excellent.
And based on your discussion today, if there's something specific, such as, so right now we actually have under the 2023-2027 strategic plan, we do have 2 milestone activities under the Veterans Capital of the USA. We have Veterans Assistance Center Resource Development, direction funding the space that we're looking at for a one-stop area. And then we have the Reentry Veterans Assistance Resource Development, but that's for those who are reentering society from the justice system. If the court would like, for Monday, we could prepare a third activity.
Absolutely.
To continue to address the needs of deported veterans, and we would develop some activities under, some actions underneath that activity.
Yeah, speaking to Mr. Garcia, that would be the inclination to do that, to have that on Monday. If we could do that on Monday.
We will get that item prepared to be added for Monday.
Okay. Well, I don't know if there's anybody else that would like to comment. Mr. Garcia, you want to go ahead and finish off?
That's what I was going to ask. Is there any question from the commission?
Oh, we do have a public comment, and so I'd like to hear from them to see if there's anything that we could integrate. Go ahead, Cesar.
Yes, sir, just a moment. See if we can get them queued up.
Person we have on Teams is Melissa Harcrow.
Hi, Melissa.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you perfectly. Welcome.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. My name is Melissa Harcrow. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, a military spouse, and currently serve as a member of the City of El Paso Veterans Affairs Advisory Committee and chair of the Veteran Homelessness Subcommittee. My purpose today is to express support for Repatriate Our Patriots and the Deported Veterans Initiative, and join in bringing awareness to the public of deported veterans and the justice they deserve. I also want to thank the county for its efforts and support thus far. There are different reasons why people enlist in the military, but many join so they may become citizens of the United States. Serving in the military requires incredible strength, discipline, and commitment. Veterans by default are subject to multiple periods of time away from their families and loved ones throughout their service. However, some of the time, service members have an idea of how long they will be gone and when they will return. It is heartbreaking when veterans return home only to be expelled from the country they devoted their service to. Now, not only are they separated from their family and home once again, but they have no idea when or if they will return to the country that betrayed them, yet that they still so love. Our deported veterans not only need an expedited pathway to naturalization, but upon their return, access to housing, employment services, VA services and benefits, and healthcare, among many other requirements for a successful integration into society and attain a high quality of life. As a member of the community and a veteran, I fully support Repatriate Our Patriots and the Deported Veterans Initiative, and I urge the Commissioners Court to continue to support any local and federal legislation that will benefit our deported veterans. I also encourage our community to donate, volunteer, and/or support in any way they can. Thank you.
Well, great words. I mean, thank you so much. And we've gotten so much support from the city. You know, Paul has been very active with us throughout. So we thank you for everything that you do and everything that the city does. And obviously, we're always looking for collaboration and that we work together. And I feel very comfortable that we are aligned very properly. So thank you very much for your kind words.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if there's no more questions, I pass
The mic?
the mic to Ms. D.
Excellent. Thank you. Great job, Mr. Garcia.
Morning. Thank you very much for allowing. My name is Diane Vega. I'm with Repatriate Our Patriots. I'm Chief Operations, but the ones that I really do feel that you need to hear from are my two colleagues that are currently online. One of them is Nick Bass. He's our liaison, and Danitza James. They're two veterans themselves. I think it's very important that you understand where they come from as far as being a service member and not having your status, and it's not easy to get it. And then as far as Nick, he knows exactly what they go through because he has been out there. Right now, he's currently in El Salvador. If you don't mind, Danitza.
Go ahead.
Hi, good morning, and thank you, Court, for allowing us this time to share with you what our mission at Repatriate Our Patriots is. I am a U.S. Army combat veteran. I am also an immigrant from Mexico. I came to United States with a LPR. I had a green card, and I decided to join the Army. One of the things of why I joined was because citizenship was an offer that my recruiter used for recruitment. Unfortunately, because of my deployments to Iraq, I was not able to obtain my citizenship before leaving the military. When I left the military, I had a green card that had expired, and I had no idea. I no longer had a military ID card that served as my identification and as my passport to cross the border. This is why this is a personal issue to me. I could have been one of those deported veterans had it not been because my husband served in the military and was able to put in for my citizenship, I will likely have been deported. My PTSD, my TBI, and several issues that I was dealing with were definitely guiding me to the wrong path towards a felony that will constitute my deportation. I do want to share with you today, I know, you know, I don't want to take much of your time, but I do want to bring up two possible gaps that continue to exist in a lot of the cities throughout the United States. The first gap is we need to do something to identify veterans when they come through the criminal system who are not U.S. citizens. Because the reason being is because when they come through the criminal system, they are likely going to be processed by ICE to serve their sentence and then be deported. It is really hard for us as an organization, as a nonprofit, to assist them in getting them their benefits, their health care, their pension, and other benefits once they're deported. But we could catch them before that happens and provide their resources available from the county and the city to ensure that there is a due process for their stability in either obtaining their citizenship, obtaining their benefits that they earned and deserved before they get deported. The second issue is we really need the support of the court and the city and offer an exemption to deported veterans who are repatriated, who are coming back into our community, to be able to use their DD-214 as a form of identification to obtain an ID card. The reason being is because without an ID card, they can't start the process of reintegrating. They have to wait on a work permit. Our veterans are eager to come into our community and be a proficient member of society and begin to work and support their families. They are faced with our roadblock of not having an ID card, and the requirement is that another second of identification must be issued by the state or United States. They don't have that. So we need your support in offering an exemption so that they can use their DD-214 to obtain an identification that would allow them to go to the VA, go to the Department of Employment, and begin their reintegration into our cities. This is, I know that there has been an initiative proposed, which is called the Nosotros El Paso, which is also a separate option or an alternative for them to receive an identification. Repatriated Patriots, it's an organization, a 100% volunteer organization. We are 90% veterans. We've all served our country, and we all play by our pledge to not leave a veteran behind. This is why my brother Nick, it's in El Salvador, living and experiencing the same struggles that our veterans are facing. We have veterans all over the country, and when they are experiencing challenges due to mental health, due to their family separation, we are there to support them, but we need the back end of our county and our cities. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to my brother Nick in El Salvador.
Thank you very much. Great testimonial and great insights. Thank you for that, Dee. Go ahead. Is it Nick?
Hello, Judge. Could you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, sir. My name is Nick Boz. I'm a human rights liaison with Repatriate Our Patriots. I'm currently in El Salvador. What I do specifically with my organization is I go all throughout Latin America and Central America, Mexico and Central America, excuse me, 1 week to 3 months at a time, to bear witness to the suffering that the exiled veteran is experiencing. And this means their assimilation into society, because most of them grew up in America they're the original DACA. They are culturally American. They went to our elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. They served our military. Some of them saw combat from Vietnam to my generation, the global war on terror. So when I go visit these places, I bring up my culture with me, which is an American culture. So they're grateful to speak English. I'm seeing how through gaining atmospherics, using social analysis, how they're being affected by not only the trauma they endured from combat, but the trauma that they experienced in prison and ICE detention through family separation and being isolated away from their families. We have to keep in mind that their wives leave them, their mothers and fathers die while they're in exile, and they are denied that basic human right of paying their respects. I also take into consideration while I'm out there experiencing this firsthand, their exposure to transnational criminal organizations, whether it's through recruitment or, being targeted. There have been kidnapping victims and people who have been assassinated by sicarios. One of them is buried in Hobbs, New Mexico. There's another one that died because of lack of access to the healthcare system. His name is Robert Duarte. He's buried in the National Cemetery in El Paso. I also witness, especially here in El Salvador, corruption by the state and how that affects them. These men oftentimes don't have access to the foreign medical program because they have to have a specific diagnosis and they can only be seen for that diagnosis. And at least here in Central America, they are in El Salvador specifically, they don't have any providers that take in the foreign medical program. I was just with a brother, his name is Jose Segovia. He was deported 3 years ago around this time. I received him when he got deported. He was in the New York Times. He served in the Battle of Fallujah. He's currently experiencing a mental health crisis. He's been harassed by the cops. I've been harassed by the cops, stripped naked in front of the cops in public at gunpoint 5 separate times, along with my brother. These men are experiencing a world of trauma and pain beyond the pale of, an American citizen's understanding. So what I would like to see the county do is when they come back through their humanitarian visa, if they don't get their citizenship, because it's rare that they get their citizenship off the bat, I would love to see the county, because the county is expressing this concern that they want to become veterans capital of the world. And that's great. And if you guys have earned that, I am all for it. But let's focus on the least of these. And what I mean by that is when these men come back, if they don't qualify for HUD-VASH is Section 8 for veterans through the VA. If we could get them in line with stakeholders that will help out with housing, help out with voc rehab. And we have to also take into consideration these aging Vietnam veterans, asking them to work when we've robbed them of years of their life, of their prime life, of potential, what is the word I'm looking for? Potential income that they could have earned while they were in the States. It's truly insulting. And some of these brothers have an other than honorable discharge, but they have undiagnosed symptoms of traumatic brain injury or PTSD that is, directly correlated from combat. We preface this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I want everybody to know that no one in this space is free of spot or wrinkle. Their stories are woven into the fabric of that flag. And I'm giving you an example of what trauma looks like. When I was in Iraq during the surge, I was with the 2nd 327th Infantry. I served as a regular infantryman in Iraq and then a battalion scout sniper for that same unit for the 101st Airborne. I remember one time we went out the gate, sir, and I need to tell you how it is. Because when I look at an exiled veteran, all I have to do is put up a mirror and they're a reflection of myself. We go out the gate. Samara, Iraq, Sunni Triangle. We make a left. We're about to do our patrol. There's this man, and he was mentally disabled. He rolls past us, and he goes to the Iraqi checkpoint, and he blows himself up. Now we pull out. We get out. We pull security, and we have this thing called the hide system that they use to identify people. We get his hand. I get his hand. That's all that's left, right? And I put it on the hide system so we could pass it up to higher headquarters so they could process the information. We get that hand and we throw it in the burn pit. I remember we had a dog on the base. for a week or 2 weeks after that, we would see the dog with the hand in its mouth. You know, these men are dealing with trauma not only from combat, but what they are experiencing in Juarez, what they're experiencing in Zacatecas, in Guanajuato, and here in El Salvador. So if the county wants to earn that, if the county wants to be the veterans capital, I'm going to be here to hold you guys accountable. And I mean that respectfully, sir, because I'm tired of seeing my brothers suffer. The conversation of suicide is always brought up, and it's heartbreaking. I would like to see when they come home, once they get their housing, if we could coordinate preemptively with the lawyers to have them reach out so they can have housing secured, because sometimes that's the reason they're denied their humanitarian visas, because they don't have housing in place. And what do you expect when when they've been away from their family for 10, 15, 20 years, the roots are not deep. I would also like to see mental health be taken as a priority, because I'm tired of having them. Not that my brother's never going to be heavy for me, but I'm tired of that conversation of suicide. I didn't read this in a book, Judge. This is a lived experience for me. I would also, the only reason that this is an issue is because the state of California passed legislation for nonprofits that have lawyers to focus on this issue. They have to have a connection. That's a caveat. They have to have a connection to the state of California to be represented through council. And I know that if Senator Blanco's team or staff is listening, I would love to see something similar to that through the state of Texas. If a veteran has a connection to the state of Texas, that they'll provide NGOs the money to have counsel, because this is the biggest obstacle we have to face, other than housing and them coming back and them not having a job skyrockets the rate of recidivism, right? Is them not being able to have counsel to help them prepare for their packet. Budgets are moral documents. It shows the priority of an administration on the federal, state, county, and city level. And I have not seen any money allocated. And it's very insulting to my brothers who have seen, to go from the sounds of cannons to the screams of silence would break the strongest of souls. And to expect these men to come back and be stoic, and women as military sexual assault victims that are deported in Costa Rica, right next to where I'm at. I'm cool with all the propaganda. If you guys want that title, let's earn it. I'm gonna be here to hold those accountable, because I'm tired of seeing my brothers suffer, sir. I'm sorry going off on a rant. Seeing my brothers. Yeah.
Yeah, we pick up on your passion and what you're trying to accomplish, and you said it right, and we agreed, Nick, that we want to be held accountable. That was one of the commitments, that we want to held accountable, because it can't be a false, superficial title. It's got to be profound and integrated into everything that we do. I think that's what we're all about. The fact that we're having these kinds of discussions don't happen in a lot of communities. They don't happen. So you're right. First step, let's do it, because it's going to be good to honor them, and people are going to feel good. The veteran's going to feel good. The second step, make sure we never not address a gap. And I know the commissioners are ready. I know Carl from advisory, Alexis, and everyone else. So we're ready to do what we need to do. This had not been introduced to us to this level, and so not an excuse, but I feel very passionate about taking care of this gap. So thank you, Nick, and then I'll go back to you.
Sir, if you don't mind, Berta, stand up. Americo? They're our community. They're here. They're not seen. We ask for you to help us identify them. What more do you want me to say?
We're ready. We're ready to do this.
Thank you for your time.
And we apologize on the delay of doing something, but I think we're on the right track. We've got a lot of people behind us. I mean, I know we've got the Congresswoman looking at that in our administration. We've got, everyone, Senator Blanco, Congressman Gonzalez as well. So we're all ready to make this happen. So we thank you. Thank you very much for today.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Judge, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Holguin.
So first of all, I wanted to thank you all for being here. This, of course, is an incredibly important issue, and one, frankly, that we shouldn't even have to talk about, right? We shouldn't be having to talk about our veterans having been deported and now us having to try to find a way to bring them back. Many of you probably don't know this, but by trade, I am an immigration attorney. So I've been dealing with this issue for the 22 years that I've been a lawyer. And this is an issue that unfortunately not just our community suffers with, but communities all across the country suffer with. This is an issue that national organizations have been grappling with for decades, literally. I just want to point out something that I don't think we've spent enough time talking about. The issue of getting our deported veterans back to the U.S., that has to be through a federal fix. The immigration laws don't permit it right now. Efrain was incredibly lucky to have gotten his humanitarian parole, but that's temporary, and there is absolutely no guarantee that it's going to be extended. So we need to find a permanent solution for him and others who have been lucky enough to get that parole. But that's the exception. That's not the rule. It's the exception. They're incredibly hard to get. But I think what we haven't spent enough time talking about is how do we avoid our veterans getting deported in the first place. And one of our speakers, Dee James, made some incredible comments that really get to the heart of that matter. Luckily, she had her husband step in. She had that support system, and he was able to obviously get her the legal help that she needed so that she could avoid being deported in the first place. And I think that that's where there's a lot of space for us as a community to really have an impact. I think every time we talk to a veteran, we should ask them, and it's nothing that we should be embarrassed to talk about, but it's just as important as asking about, are you getting the access to the health care that you need, the housing that you need? I think we need to also ask, and have you applied for citizenship? Do you need help applying for citizenship? There are expedited naturalization programs for veterans. You don't even pay the filing fee for the citizenship application. We need to make sure that every single one of our veterans naturalizes, because that's the only way that we're going to guarantee that years later we don't find ourselves talking about, well, now how do we get this veteran back? I was looking at the handout with all of the resources for veterans, which is great. But there are no legal resources listed here, and I think that's part of the problem. We don't talk about the necessity of legal services. So I would ask everyone here in this room, as part of your advocacy efforts for veterans, let's make that also include encouraging our veterans to seek legal assistance before they find themselves in the situation where they're facing deportation and possibly having to leave the only country that they've known their entire lives. So I think that as part of maybe one of the goals that Betsy is going to include in our strategic plan for the future is, how do we do that? How do we encourage our veterans to seek legal assistance, to assistance with naturalizing? One of the things I spoke to Diane about before we started the meeting was maybe a collaboration between Repatriate Our Patriots and some of our legal service providers here in El Paso. We have two incredible nonprofits, the Diocesan Migrant and Refugee Services and Las Americas Immigrant Advocacy, and maybe a collaboration where they could seek grants, they could seek funding, they could try to get a position of an attorney who is dedicated, that's all they do, is try to help our veterans become citizens or legalize their status or avoid deportation. Because I'm going to tell you, once a veteran is deported, it's almost impossible for them to come back. We have, thankfully, a few examples where it's been a success and we've been able to do it, but the vast majority, it's really difficult. We need to stop the deportation in the first place. We need to get our veterans that legal assistance before they even get to that point. So I think that's something that definitely some kind of support, encouragement. Every time we talk to a veteran, we need to ask those questions, because immigration status is just as important as access to benefits, access to housing, education, all of the other things that we know veterans need. So that would just be my plea, that we also talk about the immigration aspect of it, even if, it may be uncomfortable. But it's the only way we're going to avoid having our veterans be deported in the first place.
I think that's a great insight about, preventing the problem, the root causes that they're deported, right? So the root problem, we need to address that very, very quickly.
Judge, well, I think Betsy wanted to say something.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I did
I'd like
want
to make some
to
comments.
also make the group aware, last year as part of the strategic plan, Commissioners Court did also support an activity, and it was to add our own Padilla Immigration Counsel and advice attorney to our Public Defender's Office. So we applied for and received a grant through the Texas Indigent Defense Council, our Defense Commission, for that attorney and some support services. So we have, it's just the start. It's like, but it's at the local level. A lot of these individuals are going through the federal level, through federal court systems that we don't govern, but that we can try to influence. But I did want to share that we have done this in our own local justice system. I think you're also aware we do have a Veterans Treatment Court, but this is separate, and from that, it's specifically to address these immigration issues as they're going through our own justice system.
Thank you, Betsy. Commissioner Stout?
Thank you. Thanks, Judge. First of all, I just wanted to apologize to you all for making you wait so long for me to get here. Had some personal issues that I had to attend to, and I'm glad that you all did wait for me. I want to thank, of course, Alexis McCrae for helping us get this on the agenda today. Of course, our number one veteran this year is Mr. Garcia. Thank you, Tocayo, for your role in this and your support. And of course, thank you to everybody else who testified today or who spoke today, the folks with Repatriate Our Patriots. I want you to know that I have worked on this issue for many years. When I worked for Senator Rodriguez, Senator Jose Rodriguez, more than 10 years ago, we worked on this issue. I have been to Washington, D.C. With the Border Network for Human Rights to talk to Congress about repatriating our patriots as well. And I think this is one of the reasons why my staff wanted our office to put this on the agenda as well, to hear from you all. I think some of the comments that Commissioner Holguin made are very important. We have an office for new Americans, and I've been advocating for expanding that office and including legal services within that office. And this, I think, would be a great area to work in with those legal services if we end up doing something like that in the near future. And I want to continue to advocate for that, but I really appreciate the work that you all are doing, the work that the court is going to be doing, Judge and fellow commissioners. This is, as you've said, Judge, part of the puzzle, to a piece of one of the pieces of the puzzle to make sure that we are that capital of, veterans capital of the United States of America. And we cannot forget these folks who served our country, and for some, whatever reason it is, are not here in our country with us. And I'm glad to have somebody present with us today who has unfortunately had to go through the process, to go through this type of I don't even know what to call it, but thank you very much for being here, and I'm glad to see that you're here with us. And to the folks that were online, thank you very much, Mr. Paz, and also Mrs. James, for your testimony as well. Very powerful words that I think have moved us all, and we'll have to continue to. We'll have to remember those words every time that we work on this issue. So, I'm ready when we can to add this to our strategic plan, Mr. Garcia, Tocayo, and I think you have some great support here. So, and I'm happy to be one of those supporting you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Nick, I see your hand up. We don't have a little bit more limited time, but if you could go ahead, Nick.
I'll be real quick, Judge. One thing that I would ask is that the brothers that are in Juarez, you guys can help. And the way you guys can help is we would ask that you, the VA wants to help. It's having DHS allow access to the ports of entry. Earlier this year, or late last year, around this time, November, we did a vaccine rollout, and there wasn't no need for humanitarian visas. We crossed around 2024. I can get you the list if you want. Into the port of entry at the Bridge of the Americas. We worked with the VA and DHS to open up one of their rooms so they could get their shots. Now, we're in conversations to do this again, but what I would ask is that if you could reach out to these agencies, specifically DHS, to see if they'd be willing to open the port of entry, not just for the vaccine shot, but for mental health professionals to come in and do group therapy. I know that the vet center before COVID used to park their bus in one of the ports of entries, and the veterans that are CBP agents would do group therapy. And taking that same structure, if we could apply it to the veterans that are in exile, because they, even though it's not called officially a war zone, places like Juarez, Tijuana, Zacatecas, Guanajuato, aquí here in the país, in El Salvador, is un guerra. It's a low kinetic war zone. So giving them the tools so they can learn how to function properly, especially when they make that transition into American society, so they don't feel lost. That's what I ask that you guys do moving on forward, is preventative health care. Thank you very much, Judge.
No, thank
and one more thing.
Go ahead.
When a veteran dies, if he has an honorable discharge and he's been deported, he's allowed to be buried with full honors in the National Cemetery. And I think that's such a slap in the face to have them go through all this pain and suffering just to be honored when he comes back. You know, to me, you know, show me where my dead are buried and I'll show you where my land is. This land is sacred to us because we have bled and fought for it. And their stories, like I said earlier, are woven into the fabric of that flag that is behind you, sir. So thank you very much for your time, and I'm really humbled and grateful for your guys' willingness to work with us moving forward.
No, we're privileged as well, but, you know, we have a great relationship with Hector Mancha, and he has, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because he has, you know, he helped us with the 35,000 that we vaccinated, Tornillo. He's helped us sometimes, the students, when they graduated from college, UTEP, you know, they had to stay back, and so they helped us with doing that. So that's a great insight, Nick, and then I'll follow up on it myself. So once again, we thank you all for being here. This is an amazing discussion that we're having, the kind of discussions that need to lead to action, and so we're very ready to do that. And so we thank you for that, and you know, like I said, November 1st is celebratory, but that'll bring a lot of attention, and so please, whatever you do to have as many people there, as many veterans, you know, we've already have about 1,000 backpacks that have our logo and things like that, just to get things moving in the right direction. So once again, hope to see all of you November the 1st at 6 o'clock at the Coliseum. Please tell every part of your network to be there. We cannot have a bad showing, because then it'll be that we're not that interested, or this hasn't taken that kind of traction. So thank you very much. We appreciate all of you being here today. Thank you.
Carl Dwyer is online. He was unable to be here with us today in person, but he did have his hand up for a moment.
Okay, sure. Carl?
Apologize.
Hi, Carl.
Judge Court, Commissioners, can you hear me?
Absolutely, we can hear you. A little bit of background.
Yeah, it's a little background noise. I'm actually calling in virtually from the women's conference out here as look to address women veterans in our community. I just wanted to show and to communicate the support from the County Veterans Office. I have met with Mr. Garcia, Diane Vega on this issue. We talked it. I also want to let the court that I strongly support this initiative added to the strategic plan. I think it nets perfectly under the current milestones that we have. You've often heard me say that the needs assessment identified the gaps that we have in our community, in our veteran community. And I do believe the number one gap that we have as as Commissioner Stout and Commissioner Hogan have very adamantly addressed, is legal support. Legal support and representation is what we need to do a better job of connecting our veterans to. I know myself and Betsy have sat down with the El Paso Bar Association, Judge Moreno, to start to plan how we bring more legal resources to our veteran community. The only thing I'd ask from the presenters is, I see it's just like our homeless list that we discuss each and every Friday. And as we try to work that list of 70-some odd homeless veterans down to 0, really would like to kind of know, what we're dealing with, how many we're dealing with, so we can begin to measure, identify, and address and triage each one of these veteran cases one by one, and work this list down to 0. And as Commissioner Hogan said, make sure we get to the left of this so that no more added to this list. So that would really help my office, and I think the county kind of put our hands around what we're actually dealing with. So I respect request that data so we can begin to take a look at each one of these cases to see what resources, what actions we need to take. So thanks a lot for letting me chime in, Judge, and I look forward to seeing everybody on the 1st for Veterans Capital, and we'll continue to get after issues such as this.
Well, thank you, Carl, and we'll end by, would you mind telling us what's today?
Today is Veterans Day, Judge. Every day is Veterans Day in El Paso.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Happy Veterans.
Man, I said, did I need that? I was afraid to tell you. I don't know, it's Thursday. No, thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Let's give everyone here a round of applause. Thank you. Just one last comment, because I want to make it official. I've asked Mr. Garcia to be my ambassador throughout for the pushing for the Veterans Capital and looking at all the details that have to happen. And so he's agreed that he could do this for me and just sort of really focus. He's got to focus on 20 other things, but to focus strictly on how do you keep it going, keep it moving it forward. So once again, thank you for that, Mr. Garcia. Thank you. It's in the stretch, like, thank you. Cesar, you want to go ahead to the next item?
Do we want to go to economic development?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Item number 5, receive a presentation from the Ferguson Group regarding grant opportunities for the County of El Paso.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Good job.
Gracias, Tocayo.
Hablamos.
Los Davids.
Just say it publicly.
Get another David.
Oh, look, there he is right there, David Texton.
Oh, that's right.
There's 3 of us. Morning. There's 3 Tocayos in the room. Hey, you voted today? What'd you vote for?
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. Michael Hernandez, Director of Economic Development. It's our department's pleasure to share some of the funding opportunities we've been exploring and preparing to pursue thanks to the help from our consultants, the Ferguson Group. They're represented with us by David Hoover, who's with us remotely today. David will provide a presentation that points to some of that work. The Ferguson Group has bolstered our ability to understand grant opportunities that aid El Paso County's work in helping support businesses, improve broadband in our region, bolster infrastructure, and enable tourism. We feel fortunate to have the Ferguson Group by our side to cull through the many federal and state grant opportunities that have come down in recent months and that will be coming online as we step forward into the next calendar year. We've been connecting their help to other county departments as well, including Public Works, grants, as well as the folks who are focused on capital improvement investments. Their ability to dive deeply into a grant program, present its value, offer examples of how it's being applied, and then size up our region's needs and the county's capabilities have been impactful. That process, which began with a full understanding of our economic development goals, as well as the full slate of investments El Paso County is making with help from ARPA, has positioned us well so that we can pursue grants that can help our community thrive. They've been instrumental in helping us understand gaps we need to fill in terms of identifying community partners or having in place all the elements that are required to reach for a grant to basically compose a strong proposal. And so I'll turn it over to David Hoover, who's here online.
Thank you, David. You happen to be the fourth David today, okay? So.
Good name. So thank you. And thank you, Michael. And thank you. And a good morning to you all. I've had the pleasure of working with your economic development team throughout this year, including visiting in person with Michael and Diana Bengson and also Jose Landeros last March. So on behalf of my colleagues on the Ferguson Group Paso County team, I can say we've truly enjoyed getting to know you all and your community challenges, but more importantly, the opportunities that are out there to meet some of those challenges. Next slide. So the Ferguson Group is celebrating its 40th anniversary this year, and since opening our doors in 1982, the firm has worked with communities across the country to help advance and protect their interests in Washington. We work with clients to draft legislative and regulatory solutions and find funding opportunities to address their specific needs. TFG currently provides advocacy and grant services to over 160 entities, including counties, cities, public work agencies, cooperatives, and joint powers authorities. We also advocate on behalf of 4 national organizations focused on federal issues directly impacting local government, including the National Association of Towns and Townships. We are built on a really strong client-focused and team-centered approach, and we focus on a variety of issues, including transportation and transit funding, policy, economic and workforce development, water, wastewater planning and funding, parks and recreation, municipal government finance, and of course, one of my favorite topics, broadband and technology issues. Next slide. So in addition to your, you've got the TFG team shown here, and in addition to that team, we are fortunate to draw on the expertise of all of our colleagues who number almost 30 strong. Many of them have specific expertise in certain areas, from economic development to water issues, reclamation. Also, we have a stellar grants team, and Heidi Schott is our Director of Grant Services. She is on the El Paso team. Next slide. So I'm going to provide a quick overview of the scope and services that we've been providing the county. Next slide. So we officially commenced our work with El Paso County in February of this year. Our scope of work includes a needs assessment, which I'll go into a little bit more, as well as grants research and editing and review services. So we've been engaged, our whole team, on regular calls, first biweekly and now monthly, with Michael and the economic development team there on a myriad of different issues of importance to the county. Next slide. As I mentioned at the top of the presentation, I traveled to the county in March, and I attended its broadband improvement meeting, where I provided feedback on the El Paso Connects application for the State Capital Project Fund broadband grant application. I know that that round is coming up here soon. I also had the opportunity to sit down with your economic development staff for several hours during that trip to discuss the county's priority projects and to basically engage in information gathering purposes. And that was incredibly helpful in putting together our needs assessment. Next page. So that work, as well as research efforts from our grants team over 3 months, culminated in a detailed American Rescue Plan Act projects funding opportunities document, which we shared with the county last month. The Ferguson Group examined priority projects listed by the county and identified possible funding sources. This is a 27-page document. It's intended to be a starting point for the county. The grant and loan programs, which are included, are meant to show the county the realm of grant possibilities across different agencies and topic areas, which the county outlined. Next slide. And we have, like the ARPA projects list, the county also provided us a list of projects that are currently under consideration for future certificates of obligation and general obligation bond programs. We are currently researching federal grant funding opportunities for this list as well. Next page. And we have done some targeted grants research briefings and conference calls as well. We have, I know of importance to the county is issues related to basically, funding for our urban agriculture, food sustainability, as well as beautification projects, as well as broadband access. We've worked with different folks on and engaging on some of the funding opportunities for these types of issues. Next page. And now I'm going to switch gears a little bit and look at some of the specific funding opportunities that are coming down the pike, and also some of the things I think that the county should think about as far as when it comes to these grant funding opportunities when it comes to applications and putting those together. The next slide. I think one of the things to do and kind of remain cognizant of is being able to plan for grant programs and applications. Proper planning really does help, especially during the pre-application phase before the funding opportunity has been announced. So I know the county is already registered for different federal awards management platforms like SAM as well as grants.gov. But getting into the thick of it, it's really important to kind of clearly define project vision and needs. What is the county trying to accomplish? Why is it needed? The funding. What documentation do you have to support the project, and how much will it cost? I think the other thing to remember is establishing those relationships with the program staff for these grant programs and the federal agencies. It's always easier to get feedback from grant program staff regarding a specific grant program prior to the FOA being announced. Once that happens, the FOA being released, the agency staff tend to basically pare back their responses and how they can answer certain things to keep it balanced across all the different applicants. But prior to that, we sit down and we work with the grant staff to basically, help them better understand what the county project is and what types of funding we're looking to apply for. Next slide. The other thing to do is, many times, at least especially with some federal grant programs, they have been reoccurring, every year, or at least, there's a funding cycle that's pretty regular. And because of that, you have the opportunity to go back and review previous funding years, funding announcements, as well as the program regulations, and also prior applications. And I think that sets you up well as far as understanding, at least generally speaking, the grant application process once it is opened for a specific grant opportunity. I think it's also important to sit down and basically review grant team roles and responsibilities and assignments, as well as, most importantly, assembling all the needed documents, whether it's financial information if you're working with, say, for instance, a broadband provider, or environmental studies or permitting, things along those lines. So having that available prior is very helpful. So you are set to go once the application window does open. And then finally, engaging with your staff and consultants. You have a wonderful grants writing team there, and but you might also hire outside consultants. So nevertheless, working with those folks so they're ready to review and start to work on the grant application. Next slide. So these are some of the examples of upcoming grant opportunities that we have targeted. As I mentioned, we put together the needs assessment, and based on the county's priority categories, such as facilities and infrastructure, public health and services, public safety, as well as other issues that we have basically highlighted based on our conversations with your economic development staff. We've put together just kind of a quick overview here of some of the upcoming federal funding opportunities. Next slide. So in the realm of broadband, we have the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Reconnect Round 5. This program provides broadband funding through unserved and underserved areas of the country. It's basically a grant as well as a combo grant loan and loan program overall. We have the current deadline for the pilot for the round 4 ends actually on November 2nd, so just next week. We are looking at an estimated application window opening in second quarter of next year. So this is an opportunity to look at for the county, since Reconnect local governments are eligible entities. Another program is Community Connect through the USDA, and we have been told that might open as soon as this quarter, fourth quarter. Though we continue to track that. This is another program that allows local governments to be eligible entities, and these are some of the requirements as well as ability requirements for this particular program. Next slide. And then we also have, as part of the bipartisan infrastructure law that passed in November 2021, the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program. This is a $42.5 billion program, which is a substantial amount of money, as you all know. In fact, much of the money that was allocated for broadband and digital equity services in the bipartisan infrastructure law, it totals around $60 billion. So it's really an unprecedented amount of money, as you guys know. The NTIA broadband program, the BEADS program, this is going to be run through the states. And there's been a process set up right now where the states have already, in Texas, have basically acknowledged their initial interest in it, signed paperwork for that. They're also putting together initial planning programs for it. And then, once the funds for that planning aspect from the state is available, there's about 270 days later where there's an action plan that It basically it allows local governments and governmental and non-governmental entities to basically provide feedback to the state on their needs and working with broadband providers on unserved and underserved areas of the country. And so that includes, of course, El Paso. It's been interesting in my visit there and also working with broadband mapping and also looking at demographic information and census information. El Paso County is 98% considered urban, at least by some of the standards at USDA, and there's about 2% obviously that's left over that's considered more rural and eligible for a lot of this funding. And so there are a lot of different communities that will be eligible for this type of funding, and that's down through the Fabens area, Tornillo, and other communities within the county. So we're working with the economic development staff to highlight that and figure out next steps where we go as far as funding opportunities. Next slide. In addition to broadband, there are other opportunities that we're focused on. I know the county has been interested in crisis response teams that will be helpful when it comes to mental health issues, helping to support first responders in those type of situations. I know additional police funding is always a critical need for many municipalities and counties across the country. So these are some of the programs that we're looking at. Another one, such as the Department of Justice's Crisis Response and Intervention Training Program. That will be helpful for some of those requirements that the county is looking for. As well as the Community Facilities Direct Loan and Grant Program. We're looking at building public facilities in different parts of some of the more rural areas of the county. That's something that we can focus on also. Next slide. And as I mentioned, with police hiring, the community-oriented policing services through DOJ, as well as first responders from fire and emergency response. Those are another program from the Department of Homeland Security that we are keeping track of. And we're estimating both of these programs will be open in the second quarter of next year. That might fluctuate, of course, but we continue to track and keep in contact with the program directors from these programs. And next slide. And then finally, as this was a program that I think kind of goes to some of the goals of the county when it comes to food sustainability, agriculture, and other type of similar priorities. This is USDA, which they have an agricultural marketing service. It's a farmers market promotion program. So I know doing more homegrown local produce and things along those lines to help sustainable food work within the county and with both your government, non-governmental entities is of importance. So this is one of those funding programs that kind of get to the heart of that and help provide funding to support those types of programs. Next slide. And then, the Ferguson Group has been well known for its appropriations experience. Our CEO actually served on the House Appropriations Committee, and congressional earmarks, which is congressionally directed funding, that's back in play. The county well knows that since it won funding through the appropriations process for Reconnect. So many grant programs across the federal government can be applicable depending when it comes to earmarks. And so we were thrilled to learn that the county did receive funding through the appropriations process for Reconnect. But this is an opportunity going forward for us working with the county. We expect congressionally directed funding to be available next year also. we think. And based on that, these are some of the programs and accounts that we have worked with, including Economic Development Initiative. That's something that we can do working with the county on upgrading the Fabens Airport, specifically looking at infrastructure, roads, water, sewage, all that would be connected to Fabens and any upgrades out there. So that would be something that we would advise if the county was interested in doing that going forward. Next slide. And so I do appreciate the opportunity this morning to present to the court, and I look forward to taking any questions you may all have.
Well, David, I think first of all, just to let you know, we're extremely cognizant of the importance of grants. I mean, we, this community is very sensitive for obvious reasons on increase in taxes or anything like that, and obviously everything that you do can offset that need for public money, and so that's one very important. The other one, I really appreciate like looking at the rural areas, but also how do we help the municipalities? And yesterday I met with a group that's interested in funding for working with municipalities, creating a strategy, but then also going out and looking for the money to be able to support that, which is really. Betsy and I have talked a lot about, we can't stand back and just say, well, I hope, Sanelli somehow by itself sort of becomes better, that we have to help them be successful and form those partnerships. So, very thankful, of course, with our our grant department, Erica, thank you very much for everything that you do, but we're very, very conscious and appreciative of that support for the community. So, back to you. Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Holguin.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you for that presentation. My question is more, once we identify those potential grant opportunities, is the Ferguson Group, will you all be helping us prepare those and submit those applications, or is that something that our internal grants team then has to do? So just more kind of logistically, how does it actually work once we decide that, yes, this is a good opportunity for us?
Michael?
For the most part, we've been shaping up our grant opportunities ourselves and then presenting them to the Ferguson Group. We've had the ability to look at past submissions that we've reformatted to then think about submitting. And the way the Ferguson Group works is it's a really thoughtful approach to submitting a proposal where they begin as early as possible, so you could actually reach out to those agencies, ask all those important questions, as David pointed out, and then start writing the grant as early as possible. So as soon as it's announced, start digging into the writing of that. The Ferguson Group has the ability to also write those proposals with us, but for the most part, they've provided a lot of guidance, a lot of editing when it comes to us thinking through what a submission would look like. Often what they've helped us identify are the missing components that we have before us that we can work on. There was a grant, I'll give you an example, called the Middle Mile Grant for Broadband that we thought was incredibly impactful, and it's going to continue into the next year, thankfully, because what it requires also is for you to figure out the final mile providers in each of those places that you're looking to connect, right? Not just the final mile provider, but having agreements in place with those folks, also having a financial understanding of what the return on investment for that final mile provider looks like. So you have to have a huge amount of data to be able to submit for some of these projects. What that's done is it's prompted us to figure out how to engage with those community partners and those final mile providers. We're working through shaping up an RFP so we can gain from the private sector what those partnerships could look like with the county, so that we could have that information handy and then proceed with submissions that I think are going to be really impactful going forward.
So then the grant application and submission will actually be through our county grants department.
So I also wanted so we had this was our initial agreement with the Ferguson Group through that grant we received from NACO.
Yes, ma'am.
And so we are looking at what that grant is, the funding only carried us for so long. We are looking at what our options are going forward. If I could add the advocacy and the relationships that Ferguson Group has with the agencies at the federal level, and they have boots on the ground there. I think those face-to-face personal visits and that type of, and I don't want to like get us in any trouble by saying Ferguson Group is the only group that could do it. But we have developed this relationship. We are looking at the possibility of extending that agreement or a new agreement to get some additional help to, especially during this period where there's so much funding and so many of us all applying for it. Anything that would help us have an advantage. Our goal, I continue to say this, like per capita, we need to draw down the most funding. We're a little bit behind the curve, as Michael mentioned, on some of these things, but identifying what that is and what we can do to get caught up to qualify is a big priority. And so we are looking at the possibility of extending and getting some more help on the grants. We'll use our own team. We've grown some of our resources in our own team, but we think that especially at the federal level, some of this additional support would be very helpful.
Yeah.
And
I think
would
what's also
probably
been
pay
helpful
for
is
itself.
the Ferguson Group has helped us look at the full slate of ARPA investments the county is looking to make, not just when it comes to the economic development slate of things. It's basically a wide look at all of the investments that we're making, partly to think about how the county can save money by understanding other investments made by the federal government through grant support that could then be applied down the line in subsequent years. So helping us to provide, think through a strategy that makes sense in terms of applying our money as best as we can.
So have we actually submitted any applications as of yet that have been identified?
I think they're helping to shape up a couple of them that are going to be going out later before the end of this calendar year. But we've not. We did proceed towards one that did not make sense after all in the spring. But what they did help us do was to connect with the broadband office when they came to El Paso. They were there with us to understand what that process was going to look like, what a proposal should come to, and so we're looking to continue with that as well. That broadband office from the state is looking to open that opportunity either the first or second quarter of the year. We've been monitoring that pretty closely, engaging with the broadband office pretty frequently, and so we're right on the ball with that one.
And I think any additional assistance that the Ferguson Group can provide as far as the actual submission of the grants, I think would be incredibly, incredibly helpful. So I think that's the way that we should be moving forward. Like you said, we do not want to miss out on these opportunities that are once in a lifetime and can make a huge difference in our communities.
Thank you, Commissioner. Michael?
I just want to sum up by saying that we've had a good experience working with the Ferguson Group. They've opened our eyes in terms of all the things that we need to line up to make sure that we're in good position to reach for some of these opportunities and to think through how we can, think about years 1 through 4, in terms of looking at accomplishing our goals. I think they've got a really good, thoughtful approach. They have that connectivity to those federal agencies, and they can actually dive deeply into what those projects should look like, how they've shaped up in other communities. That information has been really key in terms of helping us understand what we should be doing.
Well, thank you. And David, your team and everyone else, thank you. It looks like Michael is excited about what you're able to do, and he's the closest to what you're doing, and so we appreciate and respect his comments on your organization. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Judge. We've enjoyed the relationship and working with Michael and the rest of his team, and look forward to being an asset to the county going forward and focus on some of these opportunities to get funding for your priorities.
Okay, thank you.
Before I let you go, I just want to point out that Diana Bankson from our team is a key asset when we have those engagements with the Ferguson Group, as well as with other offices within El Paso County government.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay. Betsy, what's your estimation on what we could do going forward?
Melissa swears she's going to be so efficient and cover this so well. I do want to start, I know, Caesar, do you want to read the item in? I know, Judge, you need to get out of here, right? You have another commitment?
Yeah, and are we doing also the one that was added to?
PRO? No, sir.
Okay, so it's this one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Caesar, could you read the item in?
Item number 6, receive a presentation regarding the County Women's Advisory Commission policies, guidelines, and bylaws.
I do want to start really quick before Melissa gets started. I think you all recall I've asked for individual input from the court. Based on that individual input, when I've heard from you all, and I still have some items I'm getting from you all as well individually, but we've drafted this because we're on a timeline. Melissa's going to cover this so that we can get this board to have its first meeting no later. They asked for no later than March. We're trying to get it even earlier than that, but we want to
Excellent.
go over that process with you all.
Excellent. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. Melissa Carrillo with County Administration. Over the past few months, I really have had the great pleasure of working with Claudia Randa from the County Attorney's Office on developing these policies, guidelines, and bylaws that we are going to present to you today. And as Ms. Keller mentioned, much of this was designed with your feedback through direct conversations you've had with her over those past few months. So today, we're just going to go through this really quickly and share some of what we've been working on. As a reminder for the court and the public, the idea to create a county women's commission came to us in May of 2022, and on June 27th, the court approved its first women's commission here at the county. Since then, we've been working, staff behind the scenes, on policies, guidelines, and bylaws so that we can have this fully prepared for this commission once those members are appointed. While the policies and guidelines have various factors within it, what you're going to see on the next 2 slides are just some significant points we wanted to call to your attention. Most importantly, the purpose. Why is this commission being created? And you can see that on screen. This body will serve as an advisory body to the court and to your chief administrator, and will help to coordinate agency activities for the agency activities, education, and prepare information relating to special interests, needs, and concerns of the women within our community. We've designed it so that there is a 7 membership, and again, this is based on feedback we've heard from you all. 5 members would be appointed individually by those court members, and 2 would be appointed at large by the full commissioners' court. We've written the policy so that they serve 2-year terms. However, there are no caps, so these members could be reappointed if it was your desire to do so. Eligibility. In researching various commissions and looking at our unique culture here within our community, it would be a panel open to El Paso residents, 16 years of age and older, and of course, very reflective of the diversity within this community. That includes race, ethnicity, age, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, gender identity, and religious affiliation. Those eligible would also have to be members who have an interest truly in serving the interests of women within this community, but also who want to advocate and pursue the goals given by this Commissioner's Court with capabilities of effective service and leadership already demonstrated within our community. Ideally, that would be the type of member we'd be looking for. Staff would be provided to this commission. You will have members from the county administration will have a board liaison with the position that you all approved earlier this year in June. We will also have counsel from our county attorney's office who will provide legal guidance to the commission once formed. And of course, members, we would make sure that they do not allow their personal interests to be attributed to the county as a whole or to the commission as a whole, or as though they're speaking on behalf of the commission when they have personal views individually. Specific duties based on this feedback, the most important thing is those goals. We want to make sure that the work that they do in a year is focusing on 3 goals, no more than 3 goals, as directed by the Commissioner's Court. Ideally, once this panel is formed, we would talk to them about any ideas they have on what those goals should look like in their first year of inception, bring those to the court for your consideration, and of course, consider any others that you all might have. But that would really help to focus their work in their first year. Overall, the panel would facilitate communication regarding various interests that impact community groups and organizations, and work to address really the equal rights of women within this community. The bylaws is a second document that we have created for this commission, and it really creates provisions that govern how this body will work. It includes officers, and we've designed it so that there would be a chairperson and a vice chairperson. They would have one-year terms, but of course they could be reappointed for multiple years if that's what the commission and the court so chose. They would be asked to meet no less than 4 times a year. If they needed to meet more, they absolutely could, but the bylaws require that they meet at least 4 times each year. The quorum, as with all bodies, requires a majority of the board members, at least 4 in this case, to constitute that quorum, and no vote will be cast by proxy. As with all of our county boards, we would require that commission members to the Women's Commission absolutely always observe civility and behave with decorum. And then within the bylaws, there's various other sections to include how expenses would be expensed, how agenda items would be created, things of that nature. But these were some of the more significant ones we wanted to bring to your attention. As we look towards the timeline and what's next, if the court has other feedback we want to consider today, we'd like to hear that from you all. Otherwise, we'll be placing these draft policies, guidelines, and bylaws on your agenda for formal approval this coming Monday. And thereafter, we'll begin posting to recruit for those at-large positions. And then if you all need help individually with appointing your individual members, we absolutely could do that. The goal, as Ms. Keller mentioned, is to have your members appointed, your 7 members appointed by the first meeting in March. So we would begin interviewing the 2 at-large members with the court with full appointments, hopefully within January or February of next year. This is the projected timeline. So with that, if there's any questions from the court, we'd be happy to take those. And again, I have Claudia Aranda from County Attorneys with me in the audience today to address any other concerns, feedback that you might have as we finalize these policies.
Well, I'm glad that I have been getting a lot of calls like, when's this going to happen? What are you doing? And so whatever you can do, Melissa, to let the groups that have interacted with us to know where we're at, let them know that at what point and what we're doing. I think it's really reflects what we've been talking about for some time, and we appreciate what you're doing.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? Not. Well, thank you, Melissa. That was extremely well done and very efficient.
You're so welcome. We did provide copies of those policies to you all in advance, and so I'm sure you had read through those. So thank you so much for the feedback you've given us already, and I'll continue to work with Ms. Aranda so that we can get this commission up and going.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you so much.
We are also, just really quick on that one, and I know I need to, but we are also looking at trying to already schedule dates with you all for January, like reserving a date with you all in January for those interviews so that we nail it down now.
Perfect. Thank you. Caesar.
Okay. And just for housekeeping, item number 7, addendum to the agenda. Receive a presentation from the Domestic Relations Office Department regarding a department overview and updates. We'll take no action, and we can repost this at another time. That completes all the items on the agenda, Judge.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Our translators back there, thank you so much. Everybody else, our production team, thank you. And everybody have a great weekend going forward. Thank you.
Okay. This concludes today's meeting at 11:33 a.m.